Reviewing council. Testing audio, testing audio. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Very good. Welcome to the special budget meeting of the City Council that we have annually. Today's date's January 20, 2025. The time is 5:32 p.m. We had to wait. One of the councilors has been trying to check on, and he just got online via Zoom. So I'm calling the meeting to order. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance before the roll call. Roll call, please.
Fonseca.
Here.
Kell.
Here.
Lottie
Here.
Mitchell.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Very good. We have a full house. It's at this point in the meeting where I usually read a caveat because people have a chance to come up to the mic, but to keep in the practice of our history, we generally don't have discussion when we have these budget items. We also generally don't have anything else on the agenda, and we don't usually have very many people here. So it's apparently my discretion to have a discussion or not. And because I think it'd go till Thursday if we discussed every item, I am going to reserve the discussion, public discussion, until we get to the one that will have a presentation at the end of the meeting. So to start with, if there's anyone who wants to move to approve the consent agenda, we'd entertain that motion.
Your Honor, if I may, can I ask for clarification on what you just said?
Sure.
So did I hear you right that discussion items 1 through 4 will not have any public input?
Right. Yep. You don't think they did last year, the year before, all the years you've been on here? We haven't had public discussion on those.
I don't remember, Your Honor.
Well, that's my recollection, and I did consult with the Mayor Pro Tem, and so that is the decision tonight. With that point of order answered, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Fonseca.
Yes.
Kell.
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Very good. And item E, discussion items. The first one is the Special Revenue Fund Local Option Sales Tax, and that's open to staff and council. Diana.
Good evening, Diana Steiner, Finance Director. So every year I bring the local option sales tax to you for a discussion. Let me just get it bigger here so everybody can see. So as we were going through the budget, we're also re-estimating the fiscal year 25 budget. The current fiscal year, the local option sales tax is allocated between 75% relief, property tax relief, and 25% council designated. Normally, I had budgeted $4 million. We came in around 4.2 this past fiscal year that just closed, and it looks like we'll hit 4.2 this year as well. So I did adjust that up and then did the split allocation. For fiscal year 26, I used the same revenue source of 4.2. However, the allocation is going to be different in fiscal year 26. It'll be 75% property tax relief and 25% council. I'm sorry, did I say that backwards? For FY25, the current fiscal year, it's 78% and 22%. And FY26, it'd be 75% property tax relief and 25% council designated. So that means that for the property tax relief in this column here, all of that money will go towards the debt service, except for the $100,000, which you approved to send to the general insurance reserve fund earlier this spring. The third column, which is the Capitals projects, we just transferred whatever we thought was remaining from prior year into this fund. There's no new funding source for this except for interest. So then we'll go to council designated, and I have some questions for you. So for the cash flow reserve fund, we've been keeping it at 17%. If you want to maintain that, it will be another $28,000. If you want to bump it up to 18,000, then it would be an additional $177,000. So my first question to you is, do you want to keep it at 17% or bump it up to 18%?
Your Honor, if I may?
Okay.
Diana, I'd like to bump it up to 18% to get to our end goal.
Our end goal is 20%.
I would agree with that. We're going to have to do it in small increments like that.
I agree with that. Just so people know, we're trying to get to 20% because it affects our bonding rate, which means we can get lower interest rates if we can carry a 20% fund balance for emergencies, that kind of thing. It shows that we're being fiscally responsible, so.
Anyone else want to weigh in up here? Disagree with that suggestion? I think, but
Your Honor, if I may?
you may.
So Diana, what would that total number be again? 177 plus the 20 what?
28,000.
Consider that consensus.
Okay. And then moving on for fireworks, in the past, you've dedicated $5,000. I'm assuming you want to continue with that, but I need your input.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Yes, the fireworks are important, Diana, so.
Okay.
Hope everybody agrees with that.
I kind of have a dog in the fight. I do agree with Councilor Fonseca. Between myself and Louisa raising funds, losing the $5,000 would have a big effect on the fireworks as far as what you see. We haven't raised the amount for probably 25 years, and I think it's worth supporting.
Just wish you wouldn't bring a gun to my head every time that when you're raising it. Speaking of Louisa, I can't help but mention, I know we're not having public comment and that sort of thing, but the benefit she had out at the Midnight Gardens for the 18-month-old child, it was well attended. And I talked to the fundraiser today, and they well exceeded their goal, and they just got another couple $1,000s from an anonymous gift this afternoon, too. So she's just been great for that stuff. All right, I'll get off my soapbox. Anybody
Or
else?
if I may.
You may, sure.
I guess that just proves that fundraisers do work.
They do. Get the right people there. Anybody else have any objections to staying with the 5,000 for the fireworks? Okay. On the
So
next item.
the big question marks here are if you want to continue to transfer money to the general fund. We'll kind of table that right now until we talk about the general fund. These other items in here have already been appropriated. I'm just carrying them forward. So you have the lead grant, the Culture Alliance, and the new home buyer incentives.
Your Honor, I have a
Your Honor.
question.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Greg, you haven't talked. Do you want to? Diana, for the homebuyer incentive, how are the home buyers getting that? The lenders or?
They
who?
apply through the chamber, I believe. John, through the chamber? Correct. Through the chamber. It's $10,000, but the city contributes $2,500 for each
Okay, and
homeowner.
is this for new builds or for
New
all?
builds.
Okay, this is for new builds. Okay, this is the one that, okay.
Your Honor? So my question is, you got the comment with the lead grant may not need. Is that because we've rectified all the lead problems in Marshalltown, or why is that a not need?
When they had to submit a grant, they had to have a 10% match. And so they brought it to council and they approved $100,000. It's not likely to be used, but we'll just keep it out there until it's needed. And if it's not needed, then it just stays in the local option sales tax.
And is that because there's no more applications for lead grant
Oh,
abatement?
no, it's still going on. It was a 4-year grant and they're only 1 year into it. So until the grant ends, right, we don't know. And they may have costs at the end just to close it out.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, input on this one?
That's all I have on this one.
Your 26 property tax valuations?
Well, you may remember the year before, you had a huge increase in your valuations in your property. This year, it was quite low. We had, for the taxable valuations, let me blow this up, we had an increase of 0.3%. So when we get to the general fund budget, I'll talk more about that, how that impacts us. For the taxable valuations, we only had a small increase there as well, 2.2%. So how this impacts you is that your assessed value, if you're residential, there's a rollback that the state mandates. For residential, if your house is $100,000, the rollback is 47%. So now your taxable valuation is $47,000, and then you take the property tax rate on top of that per thousand. For industrial and commercial, the first $150,000 is at the residential rate, and then it's 90% after that. I wanted to bring your attention to the exemptions. They've grown significantly. You may remember that last legislative session, they provided more credits for military and seniors 65 or older. Any questions on any of this?
Your Honor, may I?
Sure.
Diana, could you please explain the 0.3% for the utilities and electric?
Okay, so like Alliant Energy, they're not taxed on the value of their property. It's based on what they're producing and sending out. So it's a utility. So that's what that is. It's the state sets that and allocates it out.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments about this item? On to the next.
Okay, the directors and city administrator went through their department budgets, and I have provided you a report that shows a comparison of where we ended in June of 2024. That's your first column of numbers. The next one is the adopted budget for this current fiscal year that was approved back in April. And then the next column is just where we're at actually year-to-date through December. The next column is our amended FY25 budget. Like I said before, while we're doing our FY26 budget, we're re-estimating 25. And then the next column is the FY26 budget. So when we went through all the budget items, put in our revenues, and I outlined our assumptions in the memo for the increases on wages and health insurance, regular insurance, different items on here. And when I talked to you just a little bit ago about the backfill, the rollback, The legislature was appropriating close to 100% when that first started. Ever since then, we're on a phase out. It'd be completely gone. Any funding will be completely gone in FY29. So this current year, we took another $30,000 hit out of the general fund just for that purpose. And the business property tax credit, they have a standing appropriation of $125 million statewide, but that's not enough to cover. So Department of Management suggested we use 72%. So that's what I used for that. And you can see all the other assumptions I made. So then when all is said and done, we are short $1.3 million. So we are giving you some suggestions. Let me pull up here.
For context, by the way, the Des Moines Register reported today at $17 million for Des Moines. I looked up to see what their population is. It's not quite double the extra debt per person that we have here, but even our largest city is having that. The after effects of what the legislature has done by cutting back, cutting back the levies, holding back what we can collect on property tax, and for us also the ATE. Those are things that even Des Moines didn't experience. Go ahead.
So we could use partially or all local option sales tax to cover this. We could use the balance in our general fund. We have a restricted amount for the insurance deductible and the cash flow reserve, but we are projecting at the end of this fiscal year about $3.6 million. And then with the deficit, that'd pull us down to $2.2 million just in our general fund 001. You could look for new sources of revenue for future budgets, such as the franchise fee, which we tried before. Franchise fee, the 255 cities currently have that.
Including 5% by Des Moines, according to the register today.
Okay. And then we can continue to look for other reduced expenses other than what we have on this sheet. So Carol's going to kind of go through this expenditure and see if you yay or nay any of them right off the top.
Thank you, Council. So the first two items are related to utility charges for general fund. So we could look at removing internal stormwater charges for the general fund, which would reduce the revenue in the enterprise fund by about $36,000. And then also looking at removing internal sewer charges, which also would reduce the revenue in the sewer enterprise fund by about $9,800. And I asked, does council want me to go through the whole list, or would you like to talk about each one as I covered it?
As you come up with an item, if we have questions, I'd like to talk about it at that point.
Okay, sure. Okay, does anybody have questions on those two items?
I do, Carol. So with removing the stormwater and the sewer charges, what would that entail for those services? Like, what would happen?
They would still receive the service. The city, you would need to adopt some code language to exempt the city general fund departments from paying those fees, but legally you can do that if you have that code language.
It's just an internal billing from one department to the enterprise fund.
Excuse me. So that's an intercity thing only, right?
Right.
You could also reduce the library budget. What Diana and I talked about was calculating the cost of a cost savings of closing on Sundays, including utilities, supplies, and staff. Of course, the library, they can make the adjustments that they need to make based on the reduction that council would make in their budget. So, that's something to consider. Yes, sure.
I'm going to oppose cuts to the library, especially Sunday. the people that we would be laying off are part-time employees who probably need a
Excuse me?
All right. I oppose cuts to the library, the $22,000. The library is used 7 days a week. It's also used sometimes as almost a warming center for the homeless right now. It is used continually by this community, and I just wouldn't want to cut the services for the library.
Other input on this one?
Your Honor, I would generally echo what Councilor Lettyhoff said. If we go back to extending the local option sales tax, part of that change in percentage for property tax relief and then council designated was in lieu of House File 718, losing that special levy, knowing that the public voted for it, and part of that levy was opening the library on Sundays or keeping it open on Sundays. I understand the exercise we're going through here in trying to look for opportunities to minimize that gap, but in my mind, I think this is a value-add expenditure.
I don't know if Gary was on the council when we added when the city council approved adding the volunteer coordinator position. I think was what started having it be allowed to be opened on Sundays, but it had, because of another budget crunch years ago, it was not opened on Sundays. We were able to,
It was the library levy when that was passed that made it so they could open on the weekends.
and that's what the legislature cut out along with the band levy. Okay. Other comments on the library?
Okay, the next option is right now we contract out fire inspections. I've talked to Chief Cross and the staff at the fire department, and they've indicated that they could perform this work in-house by current staff, and so we would save $30,000 by ceasing that contract. Any feedback on that one?
I guess I'd rely on the chief's input on that and decide whether they could do that or not. So if they have the resources, that was my question. Do they have the resources to be able to do that? And if he thinks they do, I'd go with that.
I don't see anybody disagreeing. It does remind me, I got a call today from the president of the Fridley companies, and he told me that his experience with our fire chief and our fire marshal were absolutely exemplary. That he had not had that kind of good service from a city before. So just want to throw that out there. Anybody disagree with that one? Let's go on to the next one, unless there's a disagreement.
Okay, the next one is reducing the contract with the Chamber for the Visitors Bureau. Currently, we pay them 56% of the hotel motel tax revenue. We could reduce that to 50%. That would actually be a net decrease for the chamber of $11,000 because we're increasing the estimated amount of hotel motel tax revenue for next year. So that would save us $39,000, but reduce the chamber dollars transfer there by $11,000. Any feedback?
Your Honor, I think this would be something worth exploring. I don't know that we could make a decision without knowing the full consequence at this point in time, what it affect.
I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
I think it's worth considering and exploring.
I would want John Hall to talk a little bit about what the impact of reducing that would be and what would not happen because of the reduction in funds. So.
Now?
Oh, you can do that now, I think, yeah.
If you're requested by somebody up here, I think that makes sense.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you tonight on this. So we have not had an opportunity to really do a full analysis on what our budget would get put together like for next year. We operate on a fiscal year similar to you all to evaluate what would be cut out of it. Reasonably, we think we could absorb an $11,000 cut. but looking at this, kind of taking a couple of steps back and looking at this more holistically, when the hotel motel tax was put in place, that was a voter-approved self-tax that was approved with the expectation, though not in the official language, of 90% going towards Convention and Visitors Bureau activities. And since that time, it has continually been chipped away at. I would argue that our sophistication around some of our tourism efforts is probably more robust than it's been in a long time. And what we're finding is that there's opportunities that we just don't have the manpower to pursue. We added a 0.25 FTE position earlier this year in order to support some of our tourism efforts that we intend to extend into a 0.5 position probably in the May timeframe because there's many activities, and again, this is through some of our relationship building and some of our data sets that we're starting to get more routine RFPs to respond to instead of just conversations that we're able to have that we're able to pursue again by having additional capacity. Again, there's things that we can cut, but it's a question of what do we want to be at the table on. When there's a great write-up on Marshalltown in a publication, a small trade publication, that maybe only appeals to a few thousand folks. I think about the Iowa Jeep Club type publications where we've got a great write-up that comes about Marshalltown. We would really love to have the resources to make sure that we're pulling an ad in there because the signal that sends is, hey, if they come and write another great Marshalltown piece, that we're going to be able to be along to support them with ad revenue, knowing that ultimately supports their organization. So it's a lot of those types of efforts that we would ultimately lose the ability to go after, but without doing kind of a more in-depth analysis, I couldn't speak to the exact impacts. I would caution that 650,000, the increase of that 8.3%, seems steep compared to what we're seeing for actuals on hotel stays. If you remember, we subscribe to the Star Report, which gives us week by week actuals on number of stays and the cost of those stays. And what we've seen is the cost basis has dropped out primarily due to one hotel removing its flag and going into an independent has bottomed out their nightly stay, and so what we're seeing is a slight tank in revenue as a result of that. So I would be cognizant of what that means or what that potential budget number might actually look like. Again, we'd be happy to do a full analysis because I know that hotel motel tax is paid in arrears. I think it's 2 quarters in arrears. So we likely have some of the numbers that will carry us through the end of this fiscal year and might be able to project a little bit more specifically what we might expect in next fiscal year based on some of those components. So, yeah. I don't know if that answered the question you guys were looking for, but again, I'd be more than happy to do some further analysis on some of this.
I would appreciate if you'd do that so we have a real accurate picture and so you have a real accurate picture so we're dealing with what we know and not just speculation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on that option?
I just wanted to add, so in my memo under item 14, under Iowa Code, if you have a hotel motel tax, 50% must be used for improving recreational, cultural, entertainment facilities or for promotion of tourists, convention, and business. So 50%, you at least have to use that for those purposes.
The next item, and I'll have Diana speak a little bit to this, but it's essentially changing the funding source for the Axon body camera agreement to lost or ATE versus having it in the general fund.
So in this current fiscal year, you did have the police department use local option sales tax. The agreement needs to be funded in FY26, so we originally put it in there in the general fund. However, since we're trying to save money in the general fund, there would be automated traffic enforcement revenue available to fund this for 1 year.
Your
So is
Honor?
that something that you want to
Question,
pursue?
yeah. So how much revenue do we have in the ATE fund? And I would support paying it all out of that if there's enough revenue.
You know, you've committed numerous items to be paid out of the ATE. There is the 182,000 available, or will be by the time the fiscal year rolls around.
Because the ATE is now limited to only public safety type stuff and
And streets.
said streets,
Yeah.
right? I support putting it all in the ATE.
I mean, warning, during legislative session, they may restrict you to something else.
That is a concern, so anybody that has concern of city finances would be wise to talk to their legislature.
Any other input in response to that suggestion? It certainly would fall into the right category as it exists now. And it is something that we're committed to do and have to keep up with things. And the cameras have been resulting in good arrests and convictions recently. Okay, let's consider that consensus without any objection.
So a question, I don't know if this is, so what is the status of the application for any other, because there's several cameras out on one point in time, what is the status of those?
I'd ask Chief Tupper or Captain Jones to come up and speak to that.
Count down the 11 days.
No, sir. I live for this opportunity. I'm on vacation today. This is me on vacation. You're discussing Axon cameras, body cameras. I'm wearing one tonight, okay? Body cameras and car cameras. Flock cameras are the public safety cameras, completely different. And this isn't on your chart, I don't think. So we did apply for a grant, a federal grant, to hopefully get some money for the Axon cameras. And there were 100, it was in my report today, there were 150 some applications and only 30 were funded. So we did not receive that federal funding. So at any point in time, soon to be Chief Jones, if he comes across a grant opportunity, I am very confident that he'll pursue that. But we just started a 5-year contract with Axon. You paid for the first year. We have 4 years remaining, and it's $182,000 a year. So I think ATE funding is a great idea, but I don't think ATE funding is going to be around much longer. That's just my personal opinion. The state legislature does not like it.
Let's use it while we can.
So, good luck. But I just put my cards out there and be honest with you, based on what we're seeing so far, it's endangered at the state legislature.
There's actually a third category of cameras too. We have some at intersections that we call safety cameras that actually do.
Those are the flock cameras. Yeah.
Oh, those are flock
Those are
now?
the flock cameras.
Okay, I didn't realize we'd switch those to flock too.
Yeah.
Okay, but, and generally the flock ones capture the license plates, and so that's how we got a stolen car retrieved a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, and so Captain Stevenson will be here on the 27th to give you an update on flock, but we have solved a homicide, or the flock cameras helped us solve a homicide. We have solved multiple high-profile cases with flock cameras. It's been a great program for us.
And I hate to put you on the spot, I didn't look to see about how much per month ATE is bringing in right now until it's canceled.
Yeah, so Diana might know better than I do, but it's about $5,000 a week. But that's before we pay Census Gatso. Okay, so $5,000 a week is paid, and then we keep 65% of that. Yeah.
Okay,
Your Honor, if I may?
you may.
Chief, to follow up on the counselor from the distinguished counselor from the distinguished Third Ward. So the mobile camera, is it dead in the water, or do we get to reapply for that?
Well, Captain Jones is working with Lynch Dallas to file our appeal of our denial of a permit for the mobile camera and the denial of a permit for the fixed camera on Governor Road. That appeal is due by February 1st. We don't know what's going to happen, but DOT denied the permit, and we're appealing our DOT decision to the DOT, so you can do the math on that. The mobile camera, since Escatso's come and picked it up, we don't even have it right now. It's their camera. They're using it somewhere else. So we need speed cameras. I know it's not popular, but I just want to say the number one complaint that I receive in the chief's office, and it's been this way for 13 years, is traffic related in the neighborhoods, right? People driving too darn fast in our neighborhoods. And we don't have enough cops to be everywhere at once. So speed cameras are a great force multiplier for us. Some people disagree with me.
Not long after you put the one on 18th Avenue, there was one guy, same person, going about 100 miles an hour one direction and 110 the other direction.
It's a great tool for us, but
the legislature cut it down to, there are only a few cities that are even allowed.
yeah, most permits were denied. We were one or two cities that were able to keep a fixed camera location. Most of the fixed camera locations went away. Mobile cameras, a lot of communities kept their mobile. We didn't receive a mobile permit.
Other questions of the chief while he's up here?
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is a delay of a 3% cost of living increase for all non-union employees. Typically, those cost of living increases go into effect on July 1st. This option would include delaying that 3% cost of living adjustment to the first pay date in January. This one can be problematic because the union contracts have pay increases in them. I believe it's 3% for the police and fire union. So you can get salary compression for a period of time by delaying those increases.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I would say let's not put this on the backs of our staff.
Your Honor, if I may. This is my 11th go-around on a budget, and treating some of the employees differently than another, it doesn't work unless we're in an emergency situation. So I would prefer not to do this.
Your Honor, if I may. So I'm going to start out by saying I'm heavily dosed on cold medication, so more so tonight than any other night. I cannot be held responsible for what I'm going to say. But I'll just say this. I am appalled that this is even on here, that we're seeing this tonight. To delay the cost of living increase, and also the next one, not to fill the positions. We already operate with one of the smallest staffs of a city our size. Furloughing, delaying raises, and I'll take responsibility for some of the employees, and some of them are here tonight, that did not get a raise because I trusted our previous city administrator to talk to all the city employees about. I told that person that don't get hung up in the titles, because with a small staff, our people do a lot more than what their title is. And I was promised that he would talk to all the employees to find out what they really did, and he didn't. So some of them did not get raises. So that's on me. So then to furlough or delay, I just can't say without going further. I'm appalled that this is even back on here. I thought we sent that message pretty clear last time when we talked about furloughs. And as Councilor Lottiehoff said, that you can't expect certain employees to foot the bill for the whole staff. It just isn't right. So thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome. I think it was at the last meeting, we figured the figure was about 50, give or take 50 people, give or take 5 that were down compared to what we were before the Iowa Trust scandal. And so it's not like our town has been shrinking. Actually, we held our own population-wise, and we have more services, more parks, more things to take care of. I had the skating rink recently, you know. It got cold enough there wasn't anybody there on Sunday night for the first time for a while.
Your Honor, if I may?
You may.
Yeah, I would have to echo what Councilman Thompson said. Earlier today, about 7:30 this morning, I received 2 phone calls from city employees that had furlough notices put up on their board, and they were really, really concerned. And I told them, I'm not going to vote that way for it. They're too valuable, and we don't have enough of them anyways. And they do an excellent job for what they have to work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, if I may
You may.
say one thing. I'm not appalled that it's on here. I think that anything that is placed on here is an option for city councilmen to consider. You're looking at options that companies across Marshalltown have considered. We're not going to go for it, it doesn't sound like, and that's fine. But I want all options on the table. There shouldn't be anything that's off the table that we do. It's not being mean-spirited. It's not trying to make our employees feel bad. It's not trying to wind up the city councilors. What it is it's an option. The places I've worked at, we had to go through quite a few things just like this. We're used to it. But I appreciate having everything on the table. That's the way it's supposed to be in budget. There isn't stuff that's off the table. This is budgeting. And with the State House doing what they're doing to us, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. So personally, I'm not appalled. I'm glad it was on there and the city council got to have their say about it.
I keep reporting what the Des Moines Register reported, but they are looking at cutting staff, cutting positions down there. They recently cut 2 that are having some after effects and some pushback already. So, you know, if you do cut, there will be pushback. Anybody else want to weigh in on this one before we go on to the next one?
Okay, the next item is changing the hours to close the aquatic center 1 hour earlier. We don't have a cost estimate for this, or we didn't at the time we printed this. I don't know if Diana has any additional information, so the cost savings, but we do have some data that shows the amount of patrons that enter, after, I think it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And so, the impact for those who enter after that time would not be a large amount, although there may be folks who came in prior to that time who remain at the aquatic center till close. But this would impact level of service.
Floor is open on this one. One of the cities a little smaller than us is closing a pool, it looks like.
Your Honor, I have a question. Carol and Diana, so what would happen, so those, that revenue that comes in during the time that last hour, would that affect anything here?
Well, I think that most people that are coming in at 5 or after are paying $2 or $3 other than the $5 rate, and are probably water walking. So it could have an impact on that, because I'm not sure people is going to pay just for half an hour to water walk if you're going to close early.
Water walking's a separate fee.
Okay. Do you know what it is?
$3.
$3, okay. It's over and above the $2 admittance fee? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
By the same token, it doesn't have a huge impact on the overall budget.
Okay, so I would not like to close 1 hour early for just the patrons this summer. You go to the pool. It's important here in Marshalltown, so.
So currently they're open till 7 during the week. Right, Becky?
Yep, and I have taken my nieces and my son there during that half price time, and so
It would be nice to have some ballpark or estimate, I suppose, whether we're talking 2,000, 10,000, 20,000. So,
We can get that for you before the next discussion.
Your Honor, I think the bigger concern would be cost avoidance rather than revenue. So I'd like to hear both numbers, but generally, I don't think we should explore this one until we're very desperate.
Anybody else on the Aquatic Center?
Your Honor, if I may?
You may?
The problem with trying to get data on this one is there's no way to capture the mood of the people that are going to have to leave earlier than they wanted to. I mean, you can't capture that. If what is the talk going to be around town? I don't see this one as even being. I don't even think we should pursue this one. Thank you, Your Honor.
That's a good point. Hard to know who won't show up at all, how many water walkers.
So would you like us to just mark this one off or further explore the impact?
I would be open to further exploring the impact, although I think it's probably going to be very negligible.
I don't think it's a huge lift to do a little bit of an analysis on it.
I would prefer to just see how much we're talking.
And it'll probably have to be a range because you'll have to factor some people won't show up at all that were showing up. And yeah. I'm glad I'm not having to do the math on that one. But let's go ahead and ask that the math be done.
Okay, the next ones relate to open positions. So we have already included in the budget a vacancy factor for both police and fire due to just because there's turnover, so we have generally some vacancy there. So we've accounted for that in both police and fire. The other options that we did not include in the budget that we've presented to you tonight is the police captain position will be vacant soon, 2 additional police officers, and then a records clerk position, which I understand the need has changed a little bit there, and that the PD would like to look at converting this position to an evidence technician. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, Mike. Or so, I guess for me, I would just say I would recommend continuing with the vacancy factor. I would probably not leave these positions open, but that's up to council.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Sure.
Carol, so with these vacancies, would they impact the public safety, the overall operation in police and fire?
I'll let Chief Tupper answer that.
Okay, that's kind of a difficult question because you've heard me for 13 years say that we have a budgeted strength of 42 police officers and we have work for how many, Gary? 50. We still have work for 50, okay? But I've been here 13 years. You always have some openings. Chris Jones has been here 29 years. Chris Jones, how long have we been full staff in your 29 years? 6 months. 6 months. So we usually have some vacancies, okay? So I think it's fair to budget for the likelihood we'll have 2 vacancies. I think that's fair. Now, what I would say, though, is that if Chief Jones has the ability to fill those positions, he needs to fill them, right? But I think for budgeting purposes, we're probably going to have 2 vacancies for sure for the entire fiscal year. Now, for the records clerk, just one minor correction. That person would not be an evidence technician. They would still work in records, but they would also have a crime analyst function because what we are seeing with our investigations is volumes and volumes of records that our detectives have to go through. Every case involves a cell phone, a computer, data that we have to go through anymore, okay? And so I would rather pay a crime analyst to review that information so that the detectives can do detective work. and that would actually allow us to be more efficient and effective. So we have an open records clerk position. We've had an open records clerk position since May, and we experimented with the possibility of eliminating that position, and it hasn't really worked out for us because the person that is currently in records has now had to work some overtime to pick up some slack, and then we have this other need. So we think we should continue to fund that position and change their duties a little bit, tweak their duties a little bit, but they would still work in the records office.
Your Honor, if I may. Chief, and for the public and for the record, that's in addition to Courtney, correct?
Well, no, not really, because Courtney is separate. She does something different. She's an evidence tech.
I want to make sure the public understands that's not eliminating.
No, Courtney's still there. Yeah, Courtney's still there. And we're not adding a new position. This is just a position we haven't filled for several months.
Your Honor, if I may?
Sure.
Yeah, Chief, on my notes that I have down here, and it's been a while back, how many officers do you have now on staff?
We have 4 vacancies currently, so 38.
I had 39 written down here, and per shift, I had 5 to 7 officers per shift.
We have a shift minimum of 5, so there's always at least 5 people working. So it depends what's going on that day. It could be up to 7, might be more some days.
Thank you.
Yep.
So just to clarify, we've already accounted for 2 vacant police officer positions and the fire deputy not starting until January of 26. I'm sorry, the deputy fire chief. So that's already considered in the $1.3 million deficit that we're presenting. The other options that we're talking about are the police captain, 2 additional police officers, and the records clerk.
Your Honor?
Yes.
From my view, public safety is something we ought to make sure we have a good handle on. So I would leave that available for the chief to be able to hire as if he's able.
Any other council comments on this one?
Your Honor, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of saddling the new chief with having a captain's position open for all of 25 and all of 26. I don't like the idea of having, budgeting for 4 police officers being down, which is what we're at now. I mean, this stuff, in my opinion, all these need to go away. And I honestly don't like that we already budgeted for the deputy chief not starting until January 1st of 2026. I think if we bring the inspections back in-house, I think we're going to want that position filled sooner. I mean, some of the stuff is contradictory to each other in here, and I'm not following it. Might be the cold medicine, but I'm not following the logic.
Well, you may want one option and not the other, so that's why we're listing them.
It's the cold medicine.
Okay.
Any other comments on the positions? And then the last item were furlough days. So this is basically mandatory days without pay. We would furlough all city employees except PD and the fire department union staff. Again, not an ideal option. We could see reductions in service levels because of doing that. It essentially gives every employee a pay cut, so that's not ideal either. So,
Your Honor?
any feedback?
Yeah, so my feedback is no, that is not a good option.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'd agree with that, but I would also say there may be potential here to explore voluntary furlough days. Obviously, it's hard for us to budget or know what we're going to gain, but there's some upside there that some employee may want 3-5 extra days for whatever reason they may want.
And that actually, I think, is not a bad idea because some employees, especially when they first start, don't have any vacation at all. They may choose to take a voluntary furlough day. Of course, it obviously wouldn't be mandatory, so. So should we look more into that, or Is that something?
I agree. I agree with Councilor Kell.
You and I have been at enough of these to know furloughs, that's a dirty four-letter word. It just is. Mandatory.
So, Your Honor, so I agree with Councilor Kell on that, but I don't know how we budget any dollar amount off of that speculative thing. So I think we just need to keep it the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do that and then offer the voluntary day and just, see how if people take advantage of it, essentially, yeah.
I doubt we can adjust our budget much on the basis of hoping some people will take those 3 days off.
Can I go back through the list here?
Yes, I was just going to
Okay.
ask that.
So for the utility fees, the stormwater and sewer charges, I have an okay on that one, a yes. I have no to,
Excuse me, can we do one at a time?
yes.
Because at first you said we were going to go through and just ask questions, then all of a sudden it switched to where we started deciding if we wanted them or not. I don't like this one. I would rather see the in the enterprise funds rather than reducing it. I don't know how anybody else feels about that. I don't like having this one in there.
Do you mean you don't want us to charge the general fund?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
And I thought there was kind of consensus to go the other way
Yeah.
after we did talk about it.
So are we saying that we don't want to remove the internal fees, that we do want to charge the general fund, or that we do not?
Not remove the internal fees.
And do charge the general fund? So I felt I had opposite direction prior to that, so I need clarification.
And I would say I'd be in the opposite direction on that.
Okay, better see what the rest are thinking on that one then.
Your Honor, may I?
Yeah.
Carol, could you please list out like what the pros and cons of each side is, please?
Well, it's an impact to the enterprise fund, but I guess I would say it's a minimal impact to funds that are driven by ratepayers versus the general fund, which is driven by available property tax revenue. So it's a trade-off essentially.
Is the advantage that it doesn't come out of the general fund, so we keep our general fund closer to the 20%, so we get the better bond rating? Is that the real deal?
It helps with that. It's not a lot of money. It's a little bit, but it does help. And it's legally council can waive those fees for city departments, so that it's legally allowed to do that.
Well, we've got one yes vote, one no vote. Let's test the waters with everybody else.
Your Honor, I have another question. Carol, so with the 1.3 shortfall, with all these options that we have, all these cuts, do they equal out to 1 point? They don't even equal out, right?
No, they don't. It would reduce, there would be basically 3 levers you could pull here. One is reducing expenses, which is what we're presenting here, options for reducing expenses. You can transfer funds from the council designated local option sales tax into the general fund to balance that budget. Another option would be to transfer funds from the general fund, which is in that fund balance, to balance the budget. So you have 3 options. It may be that you end up coming at it from all of those angles and not relying solely on one of those.
Okay, so this first one would be what Councilor Nichols is saying. Could you repeat what you said, Councilor Nichols, please?
So I'm not talking about the full balancing the budget. I'm talking about the utility fees only to go away from the general fund and into the other fund. It's a very small part of this whole big question that.
Yep, that one for the stormwater item, the first one, the first and second one.
I would support the removal in the general fund, knowing it also decreases the enterprise fund as well.
Okay. One, to keep it as is, two, to take it out. Anybody else want to weigh in? Yeah, let's do it that way. I'll entertain a motion to go one direction or the other.
Your Honor, may I ask a question first?
Sure.
So when we reduce the enterprise fund, right? If we remove these from the general fund, it'll reduce the enterprise fund. So when we go to pay for stormwater repair, and we do this, and if we do this on an annual basis, we're going to be having to find more money in that to add to that enterprise fund to fix things, correct? Am I getting the gist of what the enterprise fund does?
It reduces the overall revenue for the fund, so yes, that would be true. I don't know if this amount of money would have that big of an impact on it, but some.
So we're saying one manhole.
I'd have to ask. I don't know what a manhole costs. Ask Heather. But yes, it would have an impact. It's not a huge impact, but some impact, yes.
Your Honor, I have a question. Carol, so in the past, this balance in this account has paid for different things that we've had happen throughout the city, right? And
You mean
so-
the general fund, or do you
No,
mean in the enterprise?
The enterprise.
Yeah, they pay for, what it takes to operate, maintain the enterprise funds, the utilities. So all of the funds that are in the stormwater fund pay for stormwater activities.
Okay,
Yep.
and so if the money is moved out, then, and nothing happens, nothing is needed to pay out of that, then it would be okay. We wouldn't have to go back and,
Well, we are always moving money. I mean, we always for operations maintenance and for capital improvements. So, yeah, I mean, we always factor that in. What's the fund balance? So that we can ensure that we have enough to appropriately operate the utility. So it does play a role, yes.
okay.
Carol, is this a recommendation from you?
I would recommend that you do this.
Follow Carol's recommendation.
I will too.
Since you're the first one to vote that way, may I consider that you have, Mr. Lotto, made a motion to that effect, and there was a second to that motion.
And I'll second.
Okay. And we already have 3 votes? Yes? You vote? 4, okay. That's enough.
Okay.
Even I can figure that one out.
May I
4 is-
move to the next item?
Yes.
Okay, so I did not hear any support at all for reducing the library's budget. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
I heard a yes to ceasing the fire inspection contract and performing that work by current staff.
Right.
For the reducing the contract with the chamber, I heard we need to explore this a little bit more. We want to look at our estimate, further analyze our estimate for hotel motel tax revenue, and then we can make some determinations about what we might reduce there.
That's what I heard.
I heard a yes to moving the funding for the Axon body camera agreement to ATE, not lost, but to ATE. I heard a resounding no to non-union, delaying the 3% COLA. Okay. I heard a no to changing the hours of the aquatic center, with the caveat that we want to take a little bit closer look at what the impact would be. I heard that we're going to account, well, let me go to the remaining vacancies first. So I heard a no to accounting for vacancies in the police captain, 2 of the police officer positions, and the records clerk, that you want us to leave these open to be hired in the next fiscal year. I heard a yes to the 2 vacant police officer positions, accounting for those vacancies. I am not quite clear on what we want to do with the chief, the deputy fire chief position. If you'd like us to go ahead and leave that open to fill and recalculate what we've presented tonight, or if you are okay with what we're recommending there.
Your Honor, if I may?
Yeah.
I would like that position filled as soon as possible.
Let me consider that a motion. We'll see if there's a second.
A second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of filling it as soon as possible, meaning we're not taking it off, it'll stay in the budget, vote, well, no, let's go.
Roll call.
Sorry.
Can we ask for a point of clarification real quick? This isn't to indicate how I'm going to vote, but filling that position coupled with, I mean, it will still be a net decrease or a net decrease or increase to our deficit.
Yes.
By filling this and pulling inspections in-house, we're growing the deficit.
Yes.
Well, by bringing the fire inspections in-house, then that's reducing the deficit.
But the 6 months of the fire chief's
Is
salary
increasing.
is greater than 30,000. Yeah.
Just so we're clear. Yeah.
We'll save
Yeah.
30,000 by going in-house on inspections. We would save more than that and not budget for whatever the salary would be higher than 30,000 for the assistant.
So the reason we're recommending 6 months is that Chief Cross is still sort of sorting out the duties of the new chief, sort of what the plan is for the staffing there. And so it just gave him a little extra time to be able to sort some of that. It's not that we wouldn't fill it at all. We still want to fill the position, but just give him a little, in the course of that, being able to save a little bit in the general fund budget.
So question, Your Honor. So is the chief on board with this delay?
Well, you can ask him. He's here.
Well, he's coming up, I got to tell you, my last discussion with him is that things are going well, and that's what I'm hearing, and so I think we made a good decision there.
Hello, Council and Honorable Mayor, Christopher Cross, Fire Chief. We can survive whatever needs to be survivable when it comes to staffing the department with backfilling the deputy chief. With bringing inspections back into the fire department, that'll be an additional revenue stream for us, which is a good thing. We will ultimately need, I want that executive level backup to deal with the training function and the operations section within the fire department at some point in time within whatever is reasonable to you. So we will survive and continue to be as excellent as we can be, given the circumstances, for sure. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about anything else while I'm here.
Your Honor, I have a question for Chief.
Okay.
Chief, would you say,
Why does that make me nervous?
it should, this one should.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that Heather in Public Works is surviving without an engineer and an engineering assistant, but she's not surviving well? So do you really want us to affirm you to go down this path and go 11 months without an assistant chief?
I've been running the fire department by myself since February. So we're all surviving, and throughout all the departments.
I don't want you to survive, Chief. I want you to thrive.
Well, I want us to thrive too, sir, but there's only so much of the pie. So it is what it is.
Well, we're going to agree to disagree. I want this position filled.
Roger.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
I have a question. I don't know if Chief Cross or if this is for the city administrator to answer. Do we have any contractual obligation of notice to ceasing the third-party inspections?
I will have to check on that. That's
I think
a
it's,
great question.
I believe it's 30 days written notice or something like that.
We'll have to check
Yeah,
the
we'll have to look.
contract, but-
Don't quote me on that. That's
Thank
what I
you.
seem to remember, but I might be wrong.
We could split the difference here too and just have it vacant for 3 months into the year if you want to save a little bit, give Chief a little more time, but fill the position a little quicker.
Yeah, I'll follow the administrator's lead on this. Whatever you guys choose to do, I'm down.
Your Honor, I'm just getting a kick out of this one. We have department heads who have been operating with a shortage and they can't wait for us to do something to fill them. We've got a department head saying, I'm good.
I'm not saying I'm good. I'm saying that we're capable to achieve the mission. Now, understand, I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds on inspections and stuff like that. We have to adjust what our expectations are with the mission that we're being asked to complete with the staffing available. So that's something that we have to look at internally and deliberate amongst the command staff about what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. And I don't mean to like throw this this term at council, and I mean no disrespect when I say this. We can only do with what we have. You know what I'm saying? The capability of the staff is what the capability of the staff is, and we'll give you excellent service to the best of our ability for sure.
You're not inspecting everybody every year and getting the report in the next day. You just can't do it.
Well, I don't think that's reasonable with the volume of inspections and of all commercial occupancies within the city, with 2 or 3 chiefs, 2 or 3 chiefs splitting duties between admin, training, and operations and fire marshaling stuff. We'll do it on the side, but we will achieve we'll have to adjust our sites just a little bit for the frequency, but there's no doubt in my mind we can get it done.
I don't want to start getting emails from you at 4 a.m. like I'm getting from Heather, just telling you, okay?
The future's unknown, sir. You don't know.
And you're still doing the double calls too,
Yeah.
So I come back to the question, do we budget it to start at the beginning of the fiscal year? Do we budget for 3 months less, 6 months less?
I've lost track of whether we had a motion on that one.
Yes,
or
did we?
not.
Yes, we have a motion on the table to fill the position as soon as possible.
Yeah, okay. And a second on that one too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and call the roll on it then. If you say yes, that means we're not taking it out of the budget, and he can fill the position tomorrow if anybody steps up. And if it's a no, it is going to adjust the budget. Roll call.
Nichols.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes. Kell.
Yes.
Bodyhoff.
No.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are filling the position as soon as possible. I just want to make sure I understand. Yep.
Your Honor, if I may, real quick. But Carol, that's for you and Chief to decide.
We'll work it out.
What's as soon as possible.
Yeah, we'll work it out. I think you're still going through a little bit of an adjusting that, but we'll do it in a timely manner, I'll say. And then the final one, 3 furlough days, I heard a no to that, but that we could offer voluntary furlough days.
Exactly.
Okay.
So with putting the fire chief position back in for the other half of the year and the cuts that you are making, that totals $193,000. So we're still $1.1 million in deficit. I apparently did not put this on my memo, so hopefully it's okay that I bring this up now. So we talked about possibly another option would be to increase summer blast. Increase from $125 a week to $140. There's about 75 kids a week, so that'd bring in another $11,000 in revenue. And the aquatic center increasing that from $5 to $7 would bring in $31,000. So are those anything that you would be interested in?
Your Honor, if I may?
You may.
None whatsoever.
Okay.
Your Honor, maybe go a little different way, but same direction. I don't think we should explore increasing fees just to increase the revenue source. If expenses justify an increased summer blast fee or pool entrance fees, I think we need to have that discussion.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I have a question. Diana, what were the primary drivers for this deficit, the 1.3, during?
Property tax valuations going down and the legislature restricting us to the same growth rate as we had last year, 0%. So when I bring the property tax in a week or two, when I bring the property tax to discuss that, what our rate's going to be, you'll see on there that we're in the tier where it's 0%. So same rate as last year for the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
There's also expenses driving it. We have increased personnel costs, insurance, benefits, all of those kinds of things. So if you look at the budget comparison report that Diana provided, the cost increases aren't in like contractual services or commodities. They're primarily in personnel services.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I wanted to note about the program fees is that, and Diana, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe we recover the full cost of these programs through the fees.
Right.
So typically, when I evaluate fees for entrance fees or, recreation fees, we look at sort of benchmark against other communities to see. And Jenny did do some of that for us. I believe aquatic center fees, we were kind of maybe right in the lower end maybe of that. But that's something I would always want to look at. How do we compare to benchmarks?
I mean, the pool and the summer blast are not enterprise funds, so we don't expect them to break even or anything, but our costs go up, our wages go up to run those programs, so, if you bring it along, the revenue, the fees, as you go, rather than getting a big hit all at once, it's better, in my
I was on the
opinion.
Y board for a number of years when we were going 5 or 6 or longer years without any fee increases, and then would have to increase a lot, and then there would be a drop of membership, and finally they went to gradually, kind of like a cost of living every year, they go up a little bit. That seems to be working for the Y. I'll bet we need to consider something like that here for the pool aquatic center.
So is that something you want us to bring back to evaluate those fees for the aquatic center and the summer blast, or just take it off the table?
Diana, can you let us know what the fees were, like fiscal year 24, 23?
Summer blast is $125 a week, and the aquatic center is $5 to get in.
And it's been that way for?
The summer blast has been increasing slowly over the years. The aquatic center has been $5 for a long time.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Your Honor, if I may add something to that.
You may.
I believe for Councilor Fonseca, and you'll have to check with Jenny on this to correct me if I'm wrong, is summer blast fees, as they've gone up, there's been a reaction to that. Attendance has gone down. Because summer blast, I believe, is utilized more by the more, how do you want to say it? Less affluent citizens. So if we continue to raise the fees for summer blast, we're defeating our purpose for engaging those children. So that's something that I'm just throwing it out there, that double check with Jenny, but it's a double-edged sword for what we're trying to accomplish.
We have that data. We can analyze that a little. I would suggest that maybe we bring back some information to you and just kind of take a look at it.
Yeah, and I'm sure, if we up the aquatic center from $5 to $6, there will be some families that don't send their kids as often, and so that's hard math to do. Yeah.
Just to note, our fee schedule shows that the Summer Blast current rate is $115 a week.
Okay. Is that right? Becky? I don't remember. Okay. Okay.
Jenny was here.
That was increased in February of 2023.
Okay. Staff will report back.
Yes. So it looks like as of right now, we're left with a $1.17 million deficit.
Yes.
So some of the other options we talked about were a transfer of the lost revenue or transfer from the general fund, dip into general fund balance essentially to cover the deficit.
Your Honor, I have a question for Carol.
Sure.
So Carol, I'm trying to remember, in the past, we haven't dipped into the general fund budget, if I remember correctly. to carry forward.
That's right.
But it seems, but yeah, oh yeah, you would know all this.
Yes.
But we're carrying forward about a $2.5 to $3 million balance every year. We think we're in the hole every year, but then we come out where we're not. So why don't we just transfer the balance this year and be done with this? We don't have to do any lost. We don't have to do these cuts or pursue more cuts right now. I think we should analyze them. Don't get me wrong. We should analyze every cost-saving thing out there. But just to move on and get past this red number, we should come out at the end of 2026 with our $2 million.
For external people, such as Moody's, it's good to have a balanced budget rather than you showing a deficit.
Right, and I was saying let's
Yeah.
balance it, but let's balance it by moving the surplus over. Is that
It's
not
going to
something
show
that's-
up as an expenses are greater than revenues because it's in the general fund. You're already in the general fund, so there's nothing to move.
Your Honor?
It's an option. You can definitely do that. It's legal. Just
I support the notion that we have funds available through council-designated local option sales tax to cover this. But if, this is my third time through the budget, and, well, fourth, we generally end up here, where we're looking for loss to fill. State legislature is saying they're not done with property taxes. We're expecting more. For the purpose of maintaining status quo, and I'm not a proponent of doing less with less for the citizens of Marshalltown, we continue to explore, but we have the council-designated local option sales tax. But we need to start looking at this before February, knowing changes are coming, the uncertainty, we don't know what that number is, but going through this line by line like this is a required function, but I think we need to be looking at this more holistically from further out. Thank you.
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
To capitalize on what Councilor Kell said, I believe the legislature is done about the 1st of June. I think it would probably be wise sometime after that to sit down and just have a budget, and depending on what they decide to do, what the effects could be on our budget, so maybe we can get a little bit quicker read on it, so everyone's aware of it going into budget anyway.
Yeah, typically, in my experience, after the end of the legislative session, I've provided an overview to council of what what legislation passed that impacted the city. So we can certainly do something along those lines, and that could be the sort of the start of the whole discussion. And I did have a council member request that we provide the lost fund statement monthly. To give every council member a handle on what you've already obligated and what the revenue looks like. So we can certainly do that. And I'm certain, I mean, I can draft out sort of a proposal here, but I would love any feedback as to what you'd like to see in a more regular discussion regarding budget.
I think their
The
premium
wild-
runs out sometime in April, actually. So, but
Sometimes
there
they
have been
go
times when
beyond,
they go,
yeah.
The
They go beyond.
Given the majority and everything, I can't imagine them needing to go beyond this year.
Your Honor, I have a question, Your Honor.
Yes.
Diana, so now that we're talking about how we're going to kind of go about moving forward so then we're better prepared for when there's a deficit, when does it pop up that it comes out being a negative? Like, at what month do we know that it's at that point?
When the county gives us our valuations, we're lucky if we get them the end of December. So that's when we know our valuations, that's when we know what our property tax revenue will be. And then we plug that number in there, and then we know
And
where
then
we stand.
know. Okay. And then has it always been in December that they've done that?
This is the first time in a long time it's been December. They're required to do it by December. It's usually in January, and last year it wasn't until the end of January.
We did get them in December this year, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that's good. So then we get the info in December, and then then do we find out that we have a deficit?
Yes, because
Okay.
the department heads pretty much have their expense budgets done, and we have our other revenues done. We're just waiting on that property tax revenue.
Okay, thank you.
Diana, couldn't we also, if we can clearly see the legislature took an action, we can make some inferences and calculations that we know things are going to take a hit, couldn't we? Couldn't we make some plans for where things stood?
To some
based on
extent. I mean,
past
you know,
history?
valuations are up and down. You know, last year they were 8%, this year they're 2%. But you can, yeah, all you can do is
So
make assumptions.
You can model it based on prior years, basically, model it based on prior years, yeah.
Yep.
And that gives you something, right?
Your Honor, if I may. Sure. So Diana, do you know what the impact would be on our bond rating if we wrote off the 1.3 and moved over the budget? Would our bond rating drop that much?
I don't know. I mean, Moody's doesn't tell you how they come up with their bond rating. But cash is king in the eyes of Moody's, so
Yeah,
the
but
more
we're
cash
sitting
you
with,
have.
what are we sitting with in the bank? I mean, if cash is king, what do we have right now?
Well,
Six-
they look at your general fund. Yeah.
Your Honor, can I go?
Go ahead, Joe.
I'm just not sure why we're toying around with other ideas. Let's just budget the transfer from lost and move on with the budget process.
That's, Your Honor, okay. That's just what I was going to say, Jeff, is, you know, we're going to have a deficit every year. We know that because the town of 27,000, we can't generate the tax revenue that we need to do what we do. So we always move lost. This number was a little eye-opening, though, this year. So I would make that motion to, I mean, is that appropriate at this meeting tonight?
Yes. Any motion to direct staff? Yes.
I'll make the motion to direct staff that the revised number, whatever it was after our changes, for those budget calculations, that we transfer the amount of loss necessary to balance the budget for 2026.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I have a question, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
What is the balance of lost right now, Diana?
It was on the prior agenda item. Let me just get it out.
Right now.
At the end of fiscal year '25, for what you've already approved to be spent out of there, I'm projecting $2.7 million. And then at the end of fiscal year '26, with what I brought you in today before we transfer any money, there was $3.4 million for the council designated.
Okay, thank you. So Diana, sorry. So would that mean when the 1.19 gets moved out of lost, that would leave us with that 2.7 mil minus 1.19 or the 3.4?
3.4 minus the
1.19.
1.19
2
million.
I don't know, 2?
1.27.
1.27. That's 1.1. Okay. Thank you.
About 1.5. If my math is right.
Your Honor, but here's what we're going to have to approach someday is we keep moving this money in, but yet every year we think we have this deficit, but every year we keep having this surplus, and we're so afraid of Moody's and the bond rating that we're never going to touch that surplus. So we're building up this war chest on the back of the taxpayers, and we don't, for what reason? I don't understand what we're doing every year. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it.
What do you do? What happens to the money? Is it earning interest while it's in the?
Yes, it's earning interest. We put part of it in CDs and some of it sits in the checking account.
Unless there's any other discussion or questions, we do have a motion pending. Because of the extra time, Madam Clerk, what is the motion?
The motion is to move loss to cover the revised balance for the deficit in fiscal year 26.
Let's call the roll.
Lottie
Yes.
Mitchell, Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca, Kell,
Yes.
We moved it. Carried, or at least staff has the direction where to go. All right. Capital improvement plan, right, for that one?
Okay, the departments put their list together. The capital improvement plan, Fund 030, is funded by the property tax levy at 67.5 cents. So we accounted for those additional revenues coming in and our other revenues, interest and backfill. And then these are the projects. So there's the summary report, and then there's also a longer report that goes into more detail for the justification. So to start off with, is there any questions on Fund 030 for any of the projects listed? The directors are here if you have questions. So this is a 5-year capital plan.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Go for it.
Diana, could you let us know kind of a more general overview of the most critical projects in the, are they all of them, or what are the top?
The top ones would be the ones that are either in fiscal year 25 or 26, because we accounted for when equipment needs to be replaced or other type of things. So basically by year, that's how it's prioritized right now.
Okay, and so do we have like the amounts? I mean, they're there. So like
Yep.
those amounts there, the 1.2 mil, the one.
Well, the
Funds
1.2,
what?
that's
funds
bringing in $580,000 from the prior year. So if some of the projects didn't get done last year, we roll them forward. So they're going to show up in fiscal year 25.
Then how much are those in total, like the 2025 and 2026?
2025 expenses are $724,000 for this year and $668,000 for next year.
Okay, and then what fund is used for these? Like what number?
Fund 030,
030, okay.
and it's the property tax levy is funding it.
Okay, property tax levy. Thank you.
So if there's no other questions on Fund 030, then we'll talk about Fund 031. Which is the building maintenance fund. So this is funded in the past by the sale of property, and then we put the money in here. Years ago, we had another location for Parks and Rec on Highway 14 North. We sold that. So anyway, you can see that this fund is running out quickly. So by the end of 26, we're already at a deficit. So you'll need to fund it through some other source. So you can use local option sales tax. Continue to put property sales in this fund, depending on whether they're dangerous or dilapidated or not. So is there any questions on these projects that we want to do?
Average annual expenditure for this one to have us running out?
For fiscal year 25, $134,000. For 2026, $200,000 is what we have in here for expenses.
So, Your Honor. Yep. So, Diana, are you saying that the way we're currently doing it is not, so you're figuring in, keeping that property sales in there, and we're coming out as a deficit? Is that what you're figuring?
For Fund 031, this building fund, there is no property tax levy for it.
The fee for sales, property sales, right?
Sales of property.
Oh, our sale of our
Yeah.
property.
Yes.
So how much
City
can we get for
property.
this building, next year?
I assume we're not planning on selling anything new.
Well, yeah, we are going to sell some property, but
Are you talking about things like the storefronts and that kind of thing?
yes. Mhm.
Yeah, we're probably not going to get that amount.
No, no.
So we've kind of had this discussion in the past. We tend to defer, keep moving it over year by year if we don't have the money. So we'd like your direction if these are the projects that you want to do, to include in our capital plan.
So basically, if I'm understanding correct, we need to either use loss, which we don't have that many things for funding to provide, right? What are our options?
You can use local option sales tax.
The only option?
Sorry, Your Honor.
No, go ahead.
This was also included in the franchise utility fee too, portion of it, trying to address it, 18 months ago?
We know what happens if we defer too long with streets.
Your Honor. But the other option is we use some bond funds that we have currently that are unencumbered, correct?
There's not a whole lot of money in the bond funds that are unencumbered. They're all assigned to a project. They're just not being spent, or they're not, they're planned for. We already have projects assigned to the bonds.
And the bond language is it's not very specific, but it's specific to certain types of projects. So I don't know if all of these would qualify for that.
Probably the biggest project on here is the boiler, the City Hall boiler. I don't know if, Heather, if you want to talk about that.
It sure is working tonight. -3 outside as we speak.
The boiler that's listed in here is not for this building. This building is Carnegie Park and Rec heating and cooling systems. The system we're talking about is a joint system shared between YSS and the City Hall building. That boiler is very aged. We've mended it the best we can. I think we replaced some seals on it here about 2 years ago. But at some point, we need to look at doing something for City Hall from an HVAC standpoint. This item and project in here has $10,000 this fiscal year for a study to look at the different types of options available to split those systems. And then we have $150,000 as a placeholder for fiscal year 26 to pursue those. We've not yet hired the engineer because obviously there's no money in the account to do the project. And so until we've got a funding source for at least 150 placeholder, we are just asking for direction so that we can go ahead and proceed with that study.
Your Honor, let me ask a question. Heather, wait, can you elaborate on the study again?
Right now, we have a single boiler in the basement of the YSS building, which used to be our police station, and it provides heating for both buildings. It's inefficient. We also have a liquid versus steam boiler issue with some of our registers that we have in City Hall. We are replacing parts frequently because we can no longer get parts that work with the system. There's also going to be a point that boiler fails completely and we aren't able to repair it. Like I said, we did put, I think it was like $14,000 in replacing seals here. I think it was last year. So we are trying to proactively get to a point where we have a solution before we are really caught kind of in a bad situation. We've installed space heaters in some of the offices in City Hall to get us by while we have not the greatest boiler system. Also, from an air conditioning standpoint, there's an issue there, and we use window air conditioning units that we install on a temporary basis in the summer to have staff. And so this is looking at a study to figure out what is the best type of system and how we go about splitting the systems between the YSS building and the City Hall building.
Okay, a study to see if, like, to get forced air, like a furnace or different types of
Yep.
HVAC? Okay.
Those are all going to be part of the investigation.
Okay, do we know how much the study would be, or not yet?
I have a $10,000 placeholder, but we've not yet reached out to solicit quotations from companies to do that.
Okay, so I would recommend that we get those quotes. I mean, if the boilers, they get updated all the time in real estate. You don't really see those anymore, so.
Did I hear you
It's
fear
gonna-
is that we don't
it's a matter
have
of
the money
time.
to do it right now?
Well,
Is that why?
as
why
the
delay?
Fund 031 balance is showing, is we don't have money to do a project. So once we're able to allocate money to do a project, that'll be, that's part of the first steps of the project, but you don't take on those steps until you at least have an idea that you're able to go ahead and proceed with that. In the past, this is one of the projects that keeps getting pushed year to year to year. And so once we feel like it's not getting pushed further out, that's when we will request those qualifications from the companies who can help us with that study.
Carol, what would you recommend on this part? Carol?
I don't know that you have a lot of options, honestly. I think you need to transfer the money from loss to do it.
So I would like to hear if everybody thinks that that's okay, or what?
Great.
I think we need to do this.
Maybe reading this not correctly, but we have a beginning balance in 25 with that $10,000 study, and it can be covered. I think the discussion's more on what that recommendation says. Do we have the funds for that?
How much will a new HVAC system cost is the real
Correct,
$64,000 question times about, what, 4 or 5, probably?
But I'll second, I believe, Councilor Fonseca's motion to proceed with the study for us to evaluate.
With kind of an unwritten understanding, if we get the study, we'll pursue it and figure out a way to pay for it. Anybody disagree with that analysis or consensus? I don't think we need a vote.
Yeah, that was a motion.
Okay.
Do we
We'll
even
call-
need it? It's in there for 25, Diana.
Well, the cash balance is going to go negative, though, in FY '26. At the end of the year, you're at negative 86,000. So you could transfer in local option sales tax to cover that 86,000 if you wanted to. Yes, you want me to?
Well, Your Honor, if I may, before we do that,
Okay.
do we have, I guess I didn't get my question answered, do we have any unencumbered funds in previous borrowing that could be used for building maintenance?
No. No,
It'd require a special hearing.
yes. Yeah.
So show a transfer of local option sales tax for FY '26.
I think.
That's
To
for
cover the
26, but we're talking 25, and the $10,000 is in 25.
Yeah, we're already set for FY '25.
So why are we discussing this, or why is there a motion? I guess is why I'm
Well,
asking.
we're discussing it because in FY '26, we don't have enough money to do the project.
And it would,
So then the 86,000 would be needed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
and it would be premature to do the 10,000 or give or take 5,000 of 10,000.
10,000's already
study.
budgeted. We don't really need to.
Yeah,
worry about
but
that,
it'd be
but-
foolish to do it now.
Right.
And not be
Wait
able to
2
pay
or 3
for it
years,
in a
right.
year, because then prices go up and,
Right.
well, that's, I don't know, the way I'm interpreting the motion, it's spend the 10,000 now and be prepared to transfer from lost the 86,000 for the year 2026. Is that what you got, Alicia?
I got to proceed with the study for $10,000.
Okay, I'll amend it to what the mayor just said.
And then in 2026 to cover the $86,000 shortfall by lost funds. Is a second still good for that?
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff.
Yes.
Okay, so the last fund I want to talk to you about is Fund 032, the large vehicle equipment. So we use this to set aside some of that property tax levy that I talked about earlier, the 67.5 cents. So we're setting aside 15% a year of that and to decrease our amount of bond that we would need to bond for when we get a new vehicle. So you can see in outer years, I put in bonding of $634,000 to buy this $950,000 fire engine.
I don't know, we already gave them an assistant chief, do they really need a truck? Floor is open on this one, though. I don't want to be in the fire that needs the truck. Anybody disagree with leaving this in?
Just one quick question on the other truck. We have the chassis. When do we get the box on the other truck? What's the date for that?
It's not, sorry. I'll shout at you from the audience, I apologize.
We can relay through the microphone.
I didn't mean to do that. The rescue reconstruction project is due for fiscal 2026. We bought the chassis early. We split the cost, just for context, we split the cost because we were looking at a supply chain problem with obtaining the chassis. We didn't want to run into a problem where we got a factory date and then didn't have the chassis available to us. Bought that early. We're storing it currently. In fiscal 2026, probably after July, we will receive a build date from the manufacturer. We're just waiting on the build date.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Do we have a build date yet?
We do not.
Okay.
No, we don't.
That's what I wanted
And
to
just,
know.
yes, we don't have a build date. Thank you.
If there is no further discussion on this one, I think the consensus says we need to budget for the fire truck and keep it in, right? Okay. Are we done with capital improvement fund? All right, let's go on to the last item here. Marshtown Arts and Civic Center funding request for discussion.
Hi, good evening, Council, Mayor, and City Administrator. My name is Christine Kinsley, the Executive Director at the Marshalltown Arts and Civic Center, located at 709 South Center Street. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I know it's been a heavy conversation talking about city budgets and very long-winded conversations about all of the different funding sources as well. So I know you probably all had a chance to read through our letter and the proposed lease agreement that was discussed between myself and City Administrator and City Clerk as well. So I just wanted to kind of keep this short but focus on the highlights here, as it's been a long night for you guys. But we wanted to focus on what is the role of the MAC in the community. And following these key areas, we have been a cornerstone for community growth, providing free space for nonprofits, schools, and veterans organizations for use during business hours. We've partnered to provide cultural events, educational workshops, aiming to serve Marshalltown residents, promoting diversity and inclusion, and enhancing civic pride. The MAC drives economic activity by hosting activities, attracting visitors, and supporting local vendors. With the addition of the Martha Ellen Tide Playhouse renovations targeted to complete in 2025, we're positioned to further enrich Marshalltown's cultural and economic vitality. The key points of this lease agreement, as we just all heard, is sourced through the surplus of local option sales tax designated by City Council. with a 3-year commitment to $125,000 out of that funding source. To ensure transparency and accountability, the MAC will provide a semi-annual financial report along with an annual summary. The conference rooms will remain free and accessible for public service groups to use during business hours, reinforcing the civic engagement. The funding allocation decreases after 3 years, demonstrating our plan to diversify these revenue sources. In alignment with city goals, this business model of the MAC supports the city's strategic plan for 25-26 relating to economic development. Our programs and facility boost tourism and local business engagements. We also align with public engagement by fostering connections amongst diverse groups. We enhance communication and civic pride. And we also align with diversity and inclusion, celebrating and amplifying Marshalltown's rich cultural heritage. So what does this look like in real time? Through my past seven to 8 months with the MAC here, we have made a connection with YSS of Marshall County. The use of our catering kitchen will provide classroom space for at-risk youth, learning to promote independent living through cooking courses, which is another collaboration with Iowa State Extension, who will teach those cooking classes in our space, with the vision of some of those being open to the public, along with serving YSS programs. Also, partnerships with Marshalltown Area United Way, working with them and their partner agencies to provide a space and platform for outreach, like fraud prevention and de-escalation trainings. Another partnership with CAPS here in town, utilizing space when meeting with local churches to explore sharing support and resources. Sister cities of Marshalltown and Ukraine, we were able to provide a space for a local art show coming up, and ensuring funding can be directed back into the programs versus their expenditures on program costs. Also, a collaboration with Sister Cities of Marshalltown and Japan, providing space for a day of cultural immersion for those students. We also have partnered with the Marshalltown Community School District. We're on year 2 of continuing and enhancing programs like Classical Splash, which had a direct program on 800 students. We also allowed space for staff professional development for 2 days at the beginning of the school year, and providing extended classroom space for a 3-day workshop for middle school students starting tomorrow. There are so many strong leaders in our community with the realization that we do not need to outsource content, but rather promote from within. We can create opportunities for all. Our call to action is to approve the lease agreement securing MAC's role as a catalyst for our community, and to advocate for the free use of public space to foster civic engagement and collaboration. Together with this partnership, we can ensure that Marshalltown continues to thrive and is a forward-thinking community. I'll be happy to address any questions.
Your Honor? So how many nonprofits in in the last 3 months or so have you been able to utilize MAC, and particularly with the business hours being during the day, doesn't that limit your availability?
It depends on the organization. Certainly there's a lot of nonprofits in town that do not have hired full-time staff, so their meeting times are usually after hours. I'll have to get you specific numbers. I'm happy to do that, but we do have some groups that meet during the day, but we also have discounted rates for those after-hour programs, so we're not charging market rate on those nonprofits either.
Other comments or questions for Christine Hossie? So,
Your Honor, if I may.
you may.
Last fall, we had a presentation by the homeless task force that our mayor set up. They came here asking for some help. Everybody up here at this table thought it was a good idea. But then one of the counselors said, sorry, but we don't have any money for you. And then the arts and culture came a couple meetings later, and all of a sudden we had money to give to them. And now you're coming back and wanting us to guarantee for 3 years. I don't know anybody here who has a crystal ball to say if we can afford that. So I'm going to have to vote no.
Other discussion or comments up here? I do intend to open this one up as for public discussion, and if you have other members of your board, I can tell. I recognize some of the people that are here.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Yeah, you may, Jeff.
Yeah, I do believe the city needs to support the MAC. There are so many things that Marshalltown used to have that citizens lament not having anymore. This is our opportunity to not lose the MAC, not lose the wonderful world-class art museum there. The Lynn Creek District project, it's part of our whole effort for that. We need the theater project to succeed. The MAC needs a runway, and I think we should offer that.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to segue on Councilor Schneider's comments about investing in ourselves and our legacy. Earlier today, we found out the city of Marshalltown lost the state YMCA swim meet. We lost the baseball state tournament in the past, and the community as a whole bemoans those events, losing those events, but we can point the finger elsewhere. We are potentially at risk of losing all those world-class amenities we just heard about because we're choosing not to invest in ourselves. This is an opportunity for us to honor the history and the legacy of Marshalltown, its founders, this great gift we've been given. It helps ensure its longer-term success or viability, and it's something no one else has. This is uniquely Marshalltown. Just as we thought the baseball tournament was Marshalltown, just like we thought the girls' state swim meet was just Marshalltown. I supported it the first time. I support it again here. Thank you.
Any other counselors? Otherwise, let's open it up.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Sure.
Christine, do we have, well, I didn't see any like pictures in the packet of what, had, testimonials or any pictures like that. So I'm wondering if you have a dedicated plan or a task force in place to lead, the changes proposed, the ambitious goals, and the complete 180 change from the last 2024 proposal to the 2025. Do you, who would be involved in getting all these things going, and what are their qualifications to execute the MAC's vision?
Yeah, I think I can speak a little bit to how we got to this point, to where this vision came from. So when I came aboard, we were already in the process of strategic planning and what role the MAC played in the community. And we've carried out some of that strategic planning as well, and brought us to a consensus amongst board members that we needed to capitalize as an asset to Marshalltown. And what does that look like? So at this point, we have not gone large scale with the community input because that takes resources and time and funding to do that. But that's something we'd like to grow and expand to. These goals have been driven from people that have utilized the space and the partnerships we already have, and what it would take to grow the connections that they're trying to make as well. So mainly this has been driven from a nonprofit standpoint. Knowing that we're familiar with how those operate, but also very familiar with limited resources in Marshalltown and how to make sure that we can maximize those for everyone. As far as who would carry this out, we have one full-time staff member and a part-time staff member at this time. So we'd be looking to grow some capacity so we can carry out these initiatives and assist with programming for the building and all of those logistics that it takes to get those things finalized. But we also have to partner with some of the local agencies that want to promote their work as well. So I think there's an opportunity to have some ownership in our building for others outside of ourselves.
So since, 2024, there was no funding. So what has been going on? Like, how have you guys sustained yourselves during this time?
Yeah, great question. So really what that loss of funding did was pull everything from our internal resources. So after those depleting resources in a shortened runway, we took the advice of the nonprofits and the people that we partner with to make sure that this funding request is a sound investment for the city.
Okay, and then I was wondering on is there, do you have any measurables for reporting the progress of, fostering diversity, increasing the tourism, and supporting the economic development? Is there any examples of measurables that would be provided with the report, or how would that be measured?
Yeah, I think that's up to you all's discretion as well, as far as what you want to see in a report like that. Knowing that directs our work then, as far as, how we register participants in, ticketed events where those data points are pulling from. But as far as measurable items, those are something we can work together on building what you want to see so that we're sure that we're capitalizing. I think a unique question mark that we're at this point is the reconstruction of the Playhouse, the theater being renovated, and what that positive impact looks like for Marshalltown, because it's a new business model at this point. So those are all things that we can build together as far as what you want to see to make sure that this is an asset to the city.
Okay, so Christine, one last question. Yeah. So how will the MAC ensure that, in your report, it said, your proposal, it said that, so how would the MAC ensure that underrepresented groups and marginalized community members have meaningful access to the programming and the facility, especially if current offerings have not historically prioritized these groups?
Yeah, I think that through learning, when we slowed down to learn a little bit more about what our community needs, those are the direct initiatives that come from those conversations. So I know you and I had a great conversation about what could it look like to offer the community English language classes, knowing that that's a real-time need that needs to be addressed for the betterment of our community. So it really happens in conversations and just continual engagement as far as what needs to be offered to the community, and working on a plan on who we can partner with to make sure that our space becomes reflective of those people utilizing those programs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else up here?
Your Honor, if I may. Christine, I wish you all the luck in the world. As a child, I went to the Fish Community Center for different events. I saw my kids' art displays there when they were in school. But I can't vote yes on this tonight to fund you, because we would be funding something that would be in direct competition with city-owned buildings. We have facilities at the library, facilities at the Coliseum that we're not turning away people yet. We don't need to look for more rooms. I think as the old people like I know it, the Fisher Community Center is a great asset to Marshalltown. But in this case, I truly think there's a better funding source for you to maintain the level to get to the level you want and maintain that level. And I believe in this case, the Martha Ellen Ty Foundation is the obvious choice to fund that. So I wish you all the luck, but I just can't see using taxpayers' money to pay for something that is going to be in direct competition with what we're trying to do and book things in the library and book things in the Coliseum. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I haven't viewed it as a competitor, just an enhancement. So I realize that there are so many great things happening in Marshalltown, and I think our uniqueness of being able to provide a space, either private or public, just brings variety and can add to any of these programs that the community wants to see.
I don't know if I may. I remember taking a tour of the building when it was just tore to crap because of the derecho. The amount of work and money that's been poured into that building from probably your general funds, everything like that. Now we're looking at grant funds available to redo the Marthel and Ty Playhouse, getting all that kind of stuff done. And now I'm getting phone calls from people that are all going, "Oh my God, you ought to meet Christine. She's so neat." You know, it's like, okay, I get it. But mostly what they spoke about was the different direction that the Marthel and Ty, or the Mac Center is doing, and the type of programming that they're beginning to do. I know you're getting quite a bit of activity on Facebook and everything like that, and everything is getting excited. I would hate to think that we, after all the work that's been done, that we don't give you a chance to shine. Okay? But I do hear what Mark says. You know, I don't know what's out there. 3 years is a long time. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, and yes, I've had some phone calls and this and that. I would make the motion that we fund this for 1 year. And then let's see what you can do and what you can run with, and then bring it back next year. So with that, I'll make the motion that we accept the proposal, but make it 1 year at the funding requested, and then we can revisit it next year.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion up here? Because we need discussion by the, either other people supporting the MAC or people that go the other way.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's open the microphone to anybody who'd like to take it. I need to give the same proviso. It's a 3-minute limit. Limit your discussion to the 3 minutes unless I authorize longer. Director remarks to us in general, not to any specific person up here.
Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. I remember last year we said no, and we just spent almost 2 hours going through here worrying about 10,000 here, 5,000 here, and now we want to turn around and here, how $125,000. And last year, after we turned down 100,000, it came time for us to have a vote, and it was like, oh, well, you're going to have to pay us to vote down here. Yeah, they had a thing where if we were going to still continue to vote down there, we're going to have to pay them for it. So I guess that, you know, I guess their feelings got hurt. Well, too bad.
Mic is still open.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Hall, Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce, 34 West Main Street. Just a couple of items that I wanted to maybe address or help tackle on a couple of these things. First, I think we can be helpful with a data set and tool that we have to kind of track and help to provide some measurements for the facility utilizing Placer AI. It'll allow us to look directly at visitor data to the facility over comparative periods in multiple years, and so I think that'll be a helpful tool. The one piece it doesn't include in that is any youth. So if you're under 18, that's not included in that. So things like classical splash will have to be measured through anecdotal reporting and specifics around that. But happy to help try to support and navigate that for the facility. You know, one item that Councilman Thompson brought up was the potential of the Marthel and Ty Foundation to support the facility, and I think the proposal that you have been presented tonight is the exact kind of runway needed in order to navigate those conversations. In fact, if you look back at the Marthel and Ty Foundation, the investment that they've made into the facility between Phase 1 renovation and Phase 2 renovation has been extensive. And so they've shown and acknowledged their willingness to support the facility. And in fact, you all have as well through contributions into the Phase 1 renovation. And I think sitting here tonight, if we had backed backed up 5 years ago when the renovation was really kicking off and know what we know today in terms of levies that got removed and impacts to city budgets, we would have been able to plan for and navigate for a more sustainable funding. But we had, and probably naively on our part, planned for continuation of that city funding because of the levy that was baked in. And so now we're getting the opportunity to navigate this phase 2 renovation. It's about a 1-year construction period. And so I know, the conversation about 1 year of funding is great, but it, lagging in construction. I mean, we know construction tends to take a little bit, whatever that projected timeline is, add a little bit to it. What I would encourage the council to do is, if the discomfort exists in a 3-year, at least consider a 2-year component so that we can, as a board, ensure that Christine feels secure in the runway that we're providing her as an organization and as a community to get the asset up and operational with a full year of operations under the belt, with all facilities open at the MAC, and at that same time we'll have navigated through all of the commitments that Martha Ellen Ty Foundation has made to the facility for the capital improvements, including to the rest of the Lynn Creek District projects, and be able to better navigate those conversations. And so, I think we all recognize that the long-term sustainable funding from the city is just not going to be something that we can rely on and come back to. But what we're asking for is a little bit of additional runway so that we don't have to close a newly renovated facility because we don't have the staying power to keep it open. Again, had we known what we know today 5 years ago, we would have had a different conversation at the board table and planning on all those things. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
Lonnie Hoagland, 1408 East Main. I don't know a lot about this subject, but I guess it amounts to you didn't fund it last year, but the building was still open and up for service and such. I cannot say how proud I am of you guys. I've never been to a budget meeting before. You guys are acting like what Chief Tupper would call rock stars. This is amazing. You're trying to figure out what you should fund and what you shouldn't fund, and I am proud of every one of you guys. I can't tell you because I can't speak to each one of you, but you're doing good. I had Zach Wall reach out to me Saturday morning and said, come here and take a look at the Marshalltown, what was it, Levi? The Little League. I invite you to go look at the Little League. I froze my tuchus off Saturday morning. Maybe it needs whatever money you want to give to it. Was that center open last year? It didn't close. The other one says, we're not going to cut budgets. We're going to, gosh, you guys are really hammering what you should do, what you shouldn't do, pull your heartstrings. Think about spending the money like it's your money, and you're doing that tonight. Go look at the Little League before you spend the money on this, but that's another subject. But you're doing a good job hammering what you should or shouldn't spend. Keep going.
Lee Botter, 13 East Southridge. One of the things that I've learned over my life, and I'm sure all of us have, is if you don't understand, ask questions. If you see a problem, bring it to light and bring ideas to the table to resolve, because yours may not be the final answer, but working together, solutions are born. Have compassion for others that are less fortunate. For me, the golden rule comes to mind, and that's what I've taught my kids over there. So they better be living by it. You guys really, I'll echo what Mr. Hoagland said. You guys are rock stars. This is the first time I've sat in a budget meeting. I've sat in a lot of budget meetings where you really haven't spent it like it was your money. So I think I'm seeing a change. So I see that tide changing, which is good. But let's get specific to the MAC. Historically speaking, I've heard those comments. We can't afford to do this because, fill in the blank. We don't have the money to do this, etc. One of the recent concerns that Mark and I discussed at home was the no money comments. Last Thursday, I had the opportunity to be part of a great program that was held at Mama DeGrado's by 100 Women Who Care. Carrie Barr's in here. Raise your hand. These women and Sarah, wherever Sarah is, did a wonderful presentation on our homelessness in this town. I heard this weekend a story that was shared with me was there was a homeless man going into a local business to find a warm place. He did not have appropriate footwear, and it appeared frostbite was setting in. Anybody else freeze their tush off when they came in tonight? I did. Employees of that business, they took the steps to help this person, and I want everybody to keep in mind, any one of us could end up homeless or starving due to circumstances beyond our control. 100 Women Who Cared last Thursday, we did vote to fund the homeless program, and this is a task force that our mayor put together for our homelessness in Marshalltown. But we did hear last year there was no money. So thank you right now that you freed up money with the way you're positioning things. So a question, I guess, I have a few questions for our gals with MAC. Are we positioned to become a warming center for people there? If it's a community center, then can we become a warming center for our homeless people? Have you guys seen a budget? I have not seen a budget. I'd like to see a budget on where all the money is going to be spent. In the letter of intent, it was for staffing, and then I heard lease, so I'm guessing, which is it? I'm wondering what the budget is. Then finally, Mark and I had the opportunity to meet with Cynthia Ragland early of 2024 because she was the MAC treasurer. Mark had financial questions and wanted to share some suggestions on fundraising. Selling art of our local artists on commission basis was one of many of the ideas. And from what Councilor Fonseca is, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name, is doing with the city in Ukraine and the selling of the art and raising money, excellent. That is an excellent project. Another idea that we talked about was a banquet. So let me further explain. We are a diverse community. How about a world tour of different cuisines? It feeds into the kids in the kitchen. On that, we have it more than one night. We highlight our different restaurants and their history. Just a few. I'm not going to name restaurants, but I'm going to name cuisines. Mexican. Got a lot of Mexican restaurants around here. Greek, Italian, Chinese, barbecue. How about using those as a way to raise needed dollars from MAC, give us an opportunity to learn about our neighbors, and I'm sure there's some kind of, with the Burmese, there's other different things. That's how we've built community. We've had friends over that are African, and they bring their native foods over. It's fun to sit and talk to them. So I'm going to urge council to say no on MAC funding with taxpayer dollars, but yes, a resounding yes, on willing to help with fundraising ideas, making it happen. So this is truly a win for all of us. Thank you.
Let you go a minute 44 over. John, I think you were 43 seconds over. But I'm worried that a lot of other people are going to talk, so I'm going to start enforcing the 3-minute limit.
Cynthia Ragland, 1502 West Lincoln Way. I appreciate your comments, and as being here in the past, I just wanted to say thank you because it gave us a chance to reset our goals and relook at what we're doing in the future. And I think that a lot of these ideas that Lee has brought up are great, and that's one bonus is that we have Christine there now, and we don't want to lose Christine. And all the comments I've gotten have all been very positive, that she's good at building relationships and listening, and I've found her joy to work with, and I think she's what makes the MAC different than the library rooms and some of the other places that we want to work together with everybody. Christine exemplifies that. And so if we can just give her that runway you talked about to let her keep going, I think we can really see great things ahead that every one of us in this room will be happy about.
You?
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue, since I don't think anybody else gave their address maybe. But
Lee gave her business
Lee
address.
did. She did. I I'm confused and I don't understand. We have a lot of stakeholders that care about the community, and they're on most of these boards. And we have these nonprofits that have endowments that are larger almost than the city budget. And they have to liquefy capital every year to give away money according to federal IRS rules. And Gary brought up the Martha and Ty Foundation. I think their foundation's about 30 million something plus now. That means, according to rules, they have to give away about 1.2 to 1.4 million a year. I know they've invested heavily in the facility. What I'm trying to figure out is why they always hold their money until they get taxpayer money squeezed out of us. Why don't they just invest? They can cover this. For about 5 years, they spent $150,000 a year to fund Vision Marshalltown, which was a non-entity political group, if you ask me. And I think if they want, they can fund this project for the runway that they need to get it off the ground. And Al Hoop, the representative for Fourth Ward, voted no on this before he died. And he struggled heavily with that vote. So, I don't know, some people say it might have been what killed him. But there's no reason that we need to fund this. We just argued about furloughing staff. This is ridiculous priorities. I don't know why we're fighting about it, because we have smart influencers that sit on the board and donate money to the community. And they know that we can do it without the taxpayer money. But why spend our money if we can spend yours? So I'm not for funding this, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Linda Clark, 306 South 2nd Avenue. Yes, Al Hoop voted no. I am voting no again, too, because we used to have the Chamber of Commerce in that building. We do have a lot of nonprofits, and just like Mr. Eaton has said, it is time that you guys all realize we, the taxpayers, we're not a nonprofit. We do not get to use that facility. That legacy that has been left is just like Mr. Eaton has said. Those foundations have plenty of money. We do not need to fund this $125,000 for them. Why did the Chamber of Commerce move out of that building and move up on Main Street? Stop and think about this, people. We have a lot of people in this community that are elderly, retired. I got a 2.2% increase for cost of living. And you're talking lots of money. And so I will leave it at that. I stick up for those that are trying to help the homeless in this town. And we're going to be having more issues because we do have deficit. So I'm not going to take any more time. You've heard me speak enough.
Doris Kinnick, 2020 Catalina Place. I've been sitting here and listening and kind of going, and I'm kind of torn. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of torn. $125,000 is a lot of money, especially over 3 years. But put it on a sliding scale, maybe. I love the Martha Ellen Ty Theater. I used to do improv, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm hoping to see that theater back up and running, which hopefully will bring in revenue, which will help, again, put it on a sliding scale. So I'm not sure if this 125,000 should be set in stone or if it should be on a sliding scale. That's one side. The other side, obviously, I'm a humanitarian. And I would love to see the MAC open as a warming center, because we do have a lot of homeless in our city, which Sharon obviously knows about the Triumph Center. I mean, she was over the weekend begging for blankets. Thank God everyone was able to help out that way. But right now we're looking at lows of 13 below zero, not counting the wind chill tonight. And as someone else said, we could all be homeless in a matter of days. You never know. So just kind of keep all that in mind as you're looking at this. I'm not going to tell you one way or another how to vote. That's not what I'm doing tonight. I'm just kind of bring it all in there. So thank you so much for your time.
Hello, my name is Maria Gonzalez, and I am at 314 North 15th Street. Well, I volunteer a lot in our community, and I've had a couple of meetings there, one being United Way fundraising, which we donate to agencies here in Marshalltown, Power of the Purse, as well as our own leadership group met there, the Diversity and Leadership Group met there as well. And I also have meetings at the library and at other locations. But I was also invited to a wedding at the MAC, which was a very unique experience for me as well. But that being said, I think it was about 4 weeks ago, Lenahan had the opportunity to take kids to the MAC, get to see the art there. And my kids were a part of that group, as well as I got the opportunity to talk to the teacher and other parents. And some of these kids had never had the opportunity to experience what an art show was like, including my kids, which is kind of funny because we're all over the place. But he came home just talking about, how some of his friends had never seen some of these things and how they giggled at some of the statues when the teachers had to explain things over and over. But he was very impressed by what Marshalltown was able to offer all of them as students. And so looking into that and looking into theater, we complain about kids not being able to have spaces. We complain about kids not being able to do things in our community. I'm also for, helping the homeless. Like I said, I volunteer in an organizations, and I was actually there that night for the 100 Women Who Care. And they did a fantastic job raising money. I think it's two different entities. I think we can help the homeless. We have the ability to help them. If it means organizing and talking more about it, it can be done. If it means people like us that night, how much money was donated, we can come together and get it done. It's just a matter of focusing, on two different issues. I would be in forward of voting for a 2-year, year, and then maybe taking a look to see where we're at 2 years. But I think it's two different entities. I do believe that we can come together and build that money and help both of the organizations that need it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie Barr. I didn't expect to speak tonight, but I have to. I grew up here. I
got to ask you for your address. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, 2363 Highland Acres Road. I grew up in Marshalltown, and I took the Fisher Center then, the MAC now, for granted because I thought it would always be there. I thought it was part of Marshalltown. As I drove my little boys by the Christian Peterson statue, I always said, there's the man holding up the little boy. That's Marshalltown, holding up little boys. Now I have grandsons who know that statue. I was in plays there on their stages. I went to travelogues as a child. I learned a lot there. The ceramics collection was always silly to me. The amazing art was something of great pride, and I could tell from everyone who introduced it to me. Even the door handles and the guy in the shower, that sculpture was always such a funny thing. That children see is part of my history. I didn't know it was fine art at the time, but it was. I happened to be there a week or two ago when the 800 kids came from Linehan, chattering and talking and having so much fun. There is nothing greater than seeing a bunch of kids at that age, middle school age, learning and talking and excited about stuff, and they were. Before they came, I saw the high school orchestra come. They were quiet and reserved, and they did their job well. How great to feature really cool orchestra in front of the upcoming Linehan kids. It was extremely cool. I love it. And how great for them, for all of them, to see all that. Every community needs a special place that sets us apart. I've been on a lot of boards that give out grants, that give out money, and it's always a struggle between the haves and the have-nots. Do we grant? It's really hard to say no to needy places. But on the other hand, within a full community, you have your needy, but you have to have the arts and the culture and the future. And so, like the man holding up the little boy that Christian Peterson spent his last breath sculpting, we need to think about the future. We love our kids. We love them learning. We don't want them homeless, but it takes special things in every level for that. And I understand your position. You have to figure out how to vote for this, and you have. But you've been given an option of supporting them for 1 year and see how they do. I would definitely be in favor of support in some way for this. So to the future.
And as I also have to thank you, Carrie, for taking on the leadership of the Ukraine Sister City program.
To the auction,
yeah.
The 31st.
Auction on the 31st at MAC. Got it. Bid high because it goes to the war-torn country and their families.
Paul Barr, 2363 Marshalltown Boulevard, and thanks to you, Your Honor, and the staff here for all of your efforts. I, too, came here just to listen, but and I'm a person that doesn't like to use cliches, but there are a couple that I think are appropriate. It takes money to make money. And I think that if we don't, this community does not invest in this sort of a resource, and with the risk of actually losing it, I think that all falls upon us as a community. So, and I had another cliche, you can't cut your way to prosperity. So anything that we do here to enhance our community, I think, even though the city doesn't own this property, it does enhance the community. It's an unbelievable gift that the Fisher family gave to us, and we need to protect that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing anybody rising. Let's call the roll if we have a motion. We do have a motion. And
Your Honor, Alicia, could you repeat the motion in second?
We have a motion by Councilor Lottie-Hoff to fund the agreement as requested for 1 year. That was seconded by Schneider.
Your Honor, can I make an amendment to it?
Since we haven't voted, do you still have time to move to amend?
I'd like to move to amend.
Okay.
Do we need a second for that, or no?
We need to know what your motion is first.
Okay. So it says semi-annual accounting. So I would like to see quarterly reports on all the measurables, every single aspect of that proposal. It is completely different than the 2024 proposal. So all of that needs to be provided, and the chamber has said that they have a measurable component to that. So switching from semi-annual to quarterly, and the 1 year still stays the same.
Is there a second to the motion to make it quarterly reporting?
I'd second that.
Let's vote on the amendment first.
Thompson?
No.
Fonseca?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie Hoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
No.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
No.
4-3 carried, and so let's vote on the original motion as amended. 1 year quarterly reporting.
Fonseca?
Can you read what we're voting on, please?
This will be for the 1 year agreement with quarterly reporting of all the measurables.
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottie Hoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
No.
Nichols?
No.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
No.
Carried. We are adjourned at 8:08. Thank you for coming.
No, there's not too much about it. Monday too. So, yeah.